Hey guys, Ian here from the Gamers Gaiden. Gonna be talking about Pokemon this week. So I just finished Pokemon Sword, which was a whole lot of fun. Probably my first Pokemon game since probably Red and Blue that I finished in its entirety. I've played the other ones as they've come out, and for the most part, like some of them I maybe played a little bit, but most I played the bulk of. I just kind of fell off, lost interest. But this one held me the whole way through. I wasn't disappointed that they didn't include all the Pokemon because there's a ton at this point. So knowing that there was only, I think they said around 400 and something in this guy, I wasn't super bummed out. It makes everything a little bit more attainable, so I wasn't too stressed about that. I was happy to see that they are releasing more Pokemon in DLC form, because typically with the other Pokemon games, we've gotten like a base version and then like almost like a deluxe version, like a year later. It's the same game but featuring more content, like how we had Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon last year, or a couple years ago. Anyways, yeah, I had a really good time with this game. It held me the whole way through. I thought the story was really well done. I liked that they went with a more the whole like British aesthetic. I liked that instead of like a gym, essentially, you're playing in like a football stadium. Like, that was great. It was a perfect change. And instead of the Elite Four, you do like a tournament. So yeah, like I thought that they did everything so much better with this. Everything felt a little bit more natural. A lot of Pokemon games have always been this kind of like coming of age story, and this never felt like that. You were on a quest to be the champion. That's all it was. And there was, some other elements in the game as well. Some kind of like B stories, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And they added in a lot of new features in this one. Now, I know there was some that have been in other Pokemon games that I might not have noticed. So there's probably some things I might mention that were in other games that I maybe just never saw. So this was one of the things I really liked, was the berry trees. Now, I know that was something that they had in the games before, but I really had fun with this like kind of risk reward system. It's like you can keep shaking the tree and maybe get more berries, or maybe a Pokemon falls out and you lose all of the berries. So or most of the berries. Sometimes you'd lose all of them, sometimes you would lose like a big chunk of them. It all depended on what had dropped. But I really liked that little system. I thought that was a fun inclusion to the game that they didn't have to put there. You could have just like shook a tree, berries drop, get berries kind of thing. But also the Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing was a lot of fun. The Max Raid battles were fun. The wild area was amazing. I love the way they handled that. The camping was just kind of a fun way to be able to. Honestly, I used it to revive my Pokemon. For me, that was pretty much all I used it for. I know the Curry Dex was kind of interesting, and the feeding and playing, and you would get experience. But I was a big fan of the like British aesthetic that they leaned into, even to the point where they had moves like Pyro Ball here, which was just like very much soccer. I mean, Cinderace in himself was very much like a football player, but I loved that move. Like that, no other Pokemon would be able to do that move. It just wouldn't look the same. So I thought that was a nice little inclusion. I was also a big fan of the Pokejobs, which does look like it's a new system that was added in. I haven't seen it in any other things before. And it was great because you could kind of like, some of them would be like generic, and other things would just be like, we need steel type for this, or we need dark type Pokemon, and some would just be like, oh, give me fierce looking Pokemon. And then you would go through and you would pick the Pokemon that match up with what they need. send them out. You could kind of choose how long they're gone for. I usually went with the whole day because I found that gave you the most experience. And then they go and do this task, and then when they eventually come back, you hope that you get the big like kind of fanfare, and they get experience. And I thought that was awesome because they included in the experience share thing for your party Pokemon that they had in the Let's Go games, which I loved. I didn't like the Let's Go games for the most part, but I loved the inclusion of that you could still keep everything in your party relevant without having to constantly like swap things in and out. And this was another way to do that. Like you could keep things that were just in your box up to level. Like I don't think I had anything under level 50 by the end of the game. It kept every single Pokemon relevant, and it allowed me to actually like swap a couple things out. Like for the most part, yeah, I had the same 6 Pokemon from like the beginning all the way through. But when I got into some of the later gym battles, I needed to start swapping some things out and just having a little bit more specialization. And the Pokejobs really helped to keep everything at that level. So I was a huge fan of that. The multiplayer, I mean, I did grab, as you can see, some footage from a max raid battle with a couple other players. But of all of the times that I tried to get into a max raid with other people, this was the only one that I actually did. I didn't get into a single other one. It would usually like drop out, or by the time I would get to it, they would have already started. So even in this case, we only had 3 people that were like actual people, and then 1 like AI controlled bot, which I did find a bit of a struggle doing the max raid battles on your own, because the AI bots would never have appropriate Pokemon. Where at least like this tells you, like, it doesn't tell you exactly what it is. It shows you the shadow. So I mean, if you've ever done the like, who's that Pokemon, you know, or at least have an idea. But it tells you the types. So I know that, okay, this is fire and ghost. So I need like a water type or a dark type. Like I need something. You can make those choices. Whereas like the AI is just, I'm going to take an electric because why not? So I did like the inclusion of all of the different Pokeballs. I know that's something that they've had in all the other games before, but I felt like there was a lot this time. Yeah, I didn't really switch out too much, but it was just a nice little inclusion. It kind of lets you get a little bit deeper. And I did like that when you finish the max raid battles, you did get a bunch of items. You get the XP candies, some Dynamax candies, so you'd get other stuff as well. You know, it wasn't just like you get the Pokemon. There was a lot of reasons to do it. Also, I don't know if this was something that was in the other ones necessarily, but I love that when you did surprise trades, if you got something from another country, its name would just be whatever it is. Like in this case, I got a French Pokemon here, and it has its name in French. And then when you capture it, it's like, oh, here's Sinistea. But when I look it up in my in my like the Poke boxes, it's listed by its French name, and it even has a little like FRE underneath the level. I'm gonna show that, yeah, right there. So I thought that was super cool. Just a nice little addition. Yeah, the game was great. I really liked the aesthetic. I liked the story. The little like Rotom Rally and collecting watts from the Pokedens was also a lot of fun. I liked that they kind of gave you a system to spend, or that would give you something to spend a currency that wasn't just cash. So you could kind of spend your money on other things, and then you could gain these watts by going to the Pokedens and doing the Rotom Rallies. and you could get, you know, Pokeballs or TMs without having to spend like actual money. You could kind of spend your actual money on like other things. So it was pretty neat. I was a big fan of the map. I found in a lot of the Pokemon games, it is very much the same. You know, they do have like, they tend to have their like kind of same tropes for each of the different areas. Whereas I found this was very different. It wasn't just like a tropical place, and then like you have a couple, like maybe there's a mountain and a cave system. This was like lots of different areas. They really did a good job of that, and I feel like they really captured the whole like English islands very well. They were going for that, I know, but just like the varied terrain, the even just like the things that people would say, or like the names that they used for things, like saying a lift instead of an elevator, or hey, like you lot. Like people don't say that in North America unless they're British. So it's kind of cool. I did like the Dynamaxing. I thought it was, I guess, a little less broken than the Mega Evolutions, because the Dynamaxing only lasted for a couple of turns, whereas the Mega Evolutions would last as long as that Pokemon was out. So if you were up against a Mega Evolved Pokemon and it was a huge like hassle for you, you were kind of stuck. Whereas at least with this, you could kind of wait it out. You know, you could kind of stall, and then it would go back to normal. I thought that was like a bit of a nice balance. But yeah, you know, I had a lot of fun with this game. I think it took me, let's say, about 42 hours to complete the main story as well as the like post-credit story. So at this point, all the like story stuff I've completed, and anything else would be, you know, just the battle tower or online stuff. So, which I might go back and actually do some of, because I did have a lot of fun with this. If I have friends who have picked this up and were playing it, I would for sure do like multiplayer max raids with them, because it's fun, you know. And that's the nice thing about Pokemon, is that it's always been this like awesome RPG system that's like a little bit more simplified and just a little bit more accessible. So anyways, that's my impressions of Pokemon. I was a big fan. Let me know what you guys thought about Pokemon down in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, I will catch you guys next time.